Well, 6 major candidates want to be Ohio's next governor, and the University of Akron's Bliss Institute of Applied Politics is hosting interviews with all of them so you can compare them and their agendas before you vote in the May 8th primary. I am Tom Beres, former longtime political reporter for WKYC TV in Cleveland, and with me, Democratic, former Supreme Court Justice, candidate for governor now, Bill. May I call you Bill?
Please do.
All right, Bill O'Neill, thanks for joining us. Grateful to be here. So let's dive right in.
Okay.
You have certainly the most interesting resume and personal work history of any of the people running, most varied and diverse. You have a military medal-winning career. You've been a union organizer. I may get some of these out of order. You were an assistant attorney general.
Civil
rights and appeals court judge, a pediatric emergency room nurse, and a state Supreme Court justice, among other things. Those
Sure.
are the high points. So why does that diverse skill set make you a viable candidate for governor, or is it a case of many trades, master of none?
Well, I'd like to be guilty of that, but that's not the case. I'm the master of. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel, United States Army with a Bronze Star. I did very well in that career. I'm a retired pediatric emergency room nurse, and I started out as a dishwasher at Ohio University, and I just finished up 5 years on the highest court in the state of Ohio. So I think you're right, it's a diverse background. And that's what we need for the governor. You got to be able to understand a lot of issues.
Right, but you've never actually been the decision maker, the guy in charge running the whole operations show with a state population of around 11 million people and more than 50,000 state workers and a 2-year budget of almost $64 billion. What skill set do you have to be the guy at the top?
Analytical skill set. And notice, Tom, my chair's going down. I'm feeling like a midget. It's okay.
Okay, I'll shrink.
The reality is what you're looking for in a governor is vision. Somebody that can look at something and say, why is this and why isn't it this way? And as a justice on the Supreme Court, I've seen everything from adoption to zoning. There's nothing that runs the state that I haven't ruled on several times.
Okay, so at the distinguished age of 70, when many people are contemplating stepping back, you'd be stepping into arguably maybe the most taxing, demanding job of your career. You ready for it? I mean, you're in.
This is not the taxing, most demanding job of my career, but I'm absolutely ready for it. I'm healthy. Many people would say, at 70, you've had 3 different great careers. Why don't you just go home? And the reality is, there's some things wrong with the state of Ohio that I can bring a real unique skill set to, and I'm not leaving till it's done.
Okay.
That's been my style for all these years.
Okay, some months back, you had made a statement that said, well, if Mr. Cordray runs, I'm not running.
Correct.
And the way things evolved, obviously.
Tom, I can't put up with this for one more second.
All right.
Hold on.
TV timeout.
No, camera can stay on. It's
okay.
Fine. We just got to get this.
See, he is adaptable and can deal with many situations. All right.
I owned a restaurant. I know how to fix equipment.
Okay. So at one time you said, I won't run if Cordray runs.
Right.
And you are running. So how did that come to pass?
Rich Cordray's been a friend of mine for 20 years. We worked together in the Attorney General's office. We had a conversation about 6 months ago, and it didn't go well. 28 minutes of warmth and sunshine, and I finally said, Rich, let's get down to brass tacks. If you do not come up and aggressively address the opioid crisis in Ohio, you're going to lose. And I mean opening state hospitals and treating the addicts as patients rather than as criminals. He says, I'm not going to do that. And I said, well, that's most unfortunate. I said, let's try again. If you don't aggressively say it's time to legalize marijuana in Ohio, and here's the reason. You legalize marijuana, you look at the Colorado model, the use of heroin goes down 25%, the deaths go down 25%. That's 1,000 people who don't die. And state income goes up $500 million to fund a hospital network.
So those 2 issues were enough to cause you to change your mind?
No.
But wait, there's more.
It got worse.
But wait, there's more.
I said, I'll give you a third chance because I really want you to be the governor. I think you'll be the good governor, but you got to win. And I said, Rich, you've been off in Washington for all these years, and the meantime, John Kasich has been privatizing all of our services, and the worst is we have private prisons in Ohio right now. We have nonviolent marijuana people in prison costing us $100 million a year. I said, Rich, you got to understand that one. He said, no. I finally said, that's 3 strikes. You're out. I'm in.
All right. Well, so you are in.
And he's still my friend.
All right. So the polls show what the polls show at the moment, for as good as they are or not.
Are those the polls that showed that Hillary won last year?
I think probably some of the same pollsters
polls?
involved.
Okay.
But I mean, okay, so you have a large undecided block at the moment, still
46%.
red. And so what do you think the winning candidate is? What percentage will the winning candidate need to be at the top? 32%? You think that's it?
It's a 4-way race right now. It's an honor to be in that 4-way race because there's 4 good candidates.
So
Democrats can't lose this.
So you think it's within reach for you? There's a path for Bill O'Neill. Okay.
Oh, if you put together the marijuana voters who are going to support me, if you put down the registered nurses, the veterans, no, I've got 32%. I don't worry. You know, don't forget, Tom, you were a reporter back when this happened in 12. Everybody wrote me off in that primary. I won 87 out of 88 counties. Ideas sell in the Democratic side.
So you think history is going to repeat itself in some respect?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's get right to some.
By the way, I'm the only one in the last decade that's been an elected Democrat in Ohio. I won in 12. Rich Cordray lost in 10.
All right, let's get to some of the have-to-ask red flag questions.
Sure, of course.
Yeah,
I'm used to it.
I know. The Democratic Party has sort of symbolically put the yellow crime scene tape around you and said, this man is not a viable candidate because of, quote, a pattern of financial and ethical challenges. And if you were the top of the ticket, oh my God, it's going to be a train wreck.
It'll be a disaster, no question about it.
And your reaction to that?
That's what they said about me in 2012. I was a Court of Appeals judge. They recruited someone to run against me in the primary. They promised them $1 million. The leadership of the Democratic Party has a long history of losing statewide races by saying silly things like that. I'm a Supreme Court justice. I just finished 5 years of a distinguished career. I'm the only Democrat elected to the Ohio Supreme Court in 30 years. And I've got the Democratic Party saying nonsense. That's ridiculous.
So in the event, from your best case outcome, you win the primary, how are you going to be able to heal and move on?
Well, same way I've done it all my life. You know, I just came off the Supreme Court where I was the only Democrat. And if anybody takes the time, you'll see that I have a majority voting pattern with Chief Justice O'Connor. We ran that place. So I can get along with people.
All right, let's deal with your infamous social media post, which has been discussed to a fare thee well, but one more time.
Forever.
Bragging about your amorous bedroom adventures with dozens of women, all because you thought Senator Al Franken, there was a rush to judgment, he wasn't getting due process. How a lot of people don't understand. What did you mean to say? What, you know, don't understand.
I'll explain it totally. It was highly inappropriate. I've got a 40-year history as a civil rights lawyer and as a justice. I was angry that day by the lack of due process for Al Franken. I said, I'm a governor candidate. I assume I'm going to be attacked. Yes, I have slept with women in a heterosexual consensual relationship. It was wrong, and I think how people judge each other, they should. When you're wrong, you promptly admit it. I did. I hurt my daughters, I hurt my sisters, I apologize to the world, but you notice those that don't want me around want to talk about that subject. I would rather talk about 5,000 people dying every year.
And we're going to get to that. So, but again, why wouldn't a concerned voter say, "Boy, guy's a loose cannon, and he went off the deep end there"?
I don't even have a microphone.
What kind of interview? Here we go. Now you're double-barreled here. So,
all right.
So, why wouldn't a voter say, "Boy, I mean, he had this lapse of judgment one time. How do we know there won't be an instant replay?"
Wow. If that's the standard we're going to hold people to, of one lapse of judgment and you're out on the trash heap, that's not the society I want to live on. I would rather people take a step back and say, for example, who is this guy? Why did he get a Bronze Star in Vietnam? Why did he become a pediatric emergency room nurse at 50? Why did he prevailed to go to the Supreme Court as the only Democrat in 30 years. Why has he written some landmark decisions? No, I'm not worried about people judging me by one lapse. I said it was a mistake. I apologized. I moved on. I hope the rest of the world did as well.
Okay, let's jump into some of the topics. You want to legalize recreational marijuana, yet the state has not even got its medical marijuana program up and running without some glitches and hitches and imperfections.
No, there's no glitches and hinges. They are sabotaging that program. Medical marijuana is in its second year of legality in Ohio. We're nowhere near the doctors who need that medicine to stop seizures for kids. Nowhere near it.
Well, on paper it's legal, but it's not happening.
Because they're slow walking it, and the lobbyists haven't made enough money on it
But
yet.
why do you think Ohio is socially and politically ready for...
Oh, it's no question. No question. It was on the ballot in 2015. There's no question. There's studies that show that 60% of Ohioans wanted it back then, but it was poorly written because it made the 10 billionaires. It said, we're going to legalize marijuana in Ohio, but you have to buy it from us. The people rejected that. I don't use the word recreational. I am saying that marijuana should be legal in Ohio. If you want to grow some in your backyard, that's not my business. And I'm saying that if we legalize marijuana, for example, we regulate and we tax alcohol. We regulate and we tax beer. If you own marijuana, we imprison you. Makes no sense whatsoever. Marijuana is a cash crop, particularly as hemp, another form of cannabis, but it's a cash crop. Colorado has shown that it's saving lives. And the model, it's saving lives, it's creating jobs. The last study I looked at, Tom, 18,000 new jobs if we legalize marijuana. Who could be against that?
So you propose using some of the revenue for dealing with the opioid catastrophe.
Once upon a time, Tom, in Ohio, we had a network of mental health hospitals where we took our least fortunate citizens and we gave them world-class care. And in the 80s and the 70s, we decided to board them all up, and the theory was they'll go home to the 88 counties where they came from and they'd be magically treated.
Take your meds and be well.
Right, and then now a majority of mentally ill people in Ohio are in jail, which is precisely where they should not be. They should be in a state hospital getting better.
And you think you could start an entire, basically revitalize the state's network of mental health hospitals with the revenue from this?
$600 million per year, every year, there's just no question. Right now, I'm a pediatric emergency room nurse. I have saved a kid's life that came in with an overdose. We get the heart going, we get the breathing going, he comes back to normal. The reality is the doctor admonishes him, the nurse tells him don't do it again, and we send him home with his parents to die because there is nowhere to send him for treatment. The Glen Bays and the University of Akron's and the Cleveland Clinic, they can only take in so many free patients before they go out of business. So no, there's no question.
Some people might say, isn't that sort of counterintuitive, though, to use the revenue that you've made from selling one drug to treat the addictions of another drug?
There's no scientific basis to suggest that marijuana is an addictive or gateway drug, and there is ample science out there.
Well, I know some people would dispute you. I don't profess to be an
I welcome
expert.
it. And that's right. And I welcome the discussion.
All right. Recent polls show that a majority of Ohioans, including members of both parties, now favor a ban on semi-automatic military weapons.
Sure.
Do you?
No, and I'll tell you why not. The Second Amendment gives you the right to bear arms. There is no question the United States Supreme Court is not going to strike that down. But the Second Amendment also gives us the right to have reasonable regulations. And I don't hear that discussion going on right now. I am the only candidate who said, look, if you want to have a military-style assault weapon, or the state of Ohio will require you annually to go down and see your local chief of police and buy a 1-year permit and prove that you're a law-abiding citizen. A law-abiding citizen owning an assault weapon is constitutionally permissible And that's where I disagree with everybody in the race. I mean, Dennis says that he's going to outlaw them, and I've told him, because he's my friend, I said, Dennis, that's not going to make it through the court system.
So to those majority of people in the survey who probably say yes, but what legitimate purpose?
What majority are you saying?
Baldwin Wallace. There's a Baldwin Wallace survey that says, I don't
says
have the
what?
exact.
But says what?
Okay, more than 50% of Ohio.
Okay, now we're down to 50%. Okay.
Okay, I don't have the exact poll in front
Very
of me.
good.
But
All
I
right.
believe it. But
I'll accept your numbers.
Okay. Would ask the question, what legitimate purpose does a private citizen have to own a military weapon that's designed to kill lots of people very quickly? He's not going to hunt with it. He's not going to protect his family with it in all probability. What is the common sense reason for them to have that weapon?
They have the constitutional right to have the weapon, and they use it for target practice. I have a neighbor in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, who owns one of them. He likes it. He likes doing target practice with it, and the Second Amendment says he can do that. That's why I'm very concerned about the hysteria that I see going on right now. For example, major newspapers in Ohio are suggesting that the Democratic primary is between two people and it's about guns. That's nonsense. People of Ohio care about a whole lot of other things, and I suggest that 5,000 people a year dying is right up there with what we should be addressing.
President Trump has been in office about 15 months. Do you think Ohio and its residents are better off or worse off because of what he's accomplished or not accomplished in his time in office? And give me an example or two.
I don't know that he's accomplished anything that comes to my mind that's beneficial to Ohio, but he is on real dangerous ground right now with these trade wars he's about to start. Ohio is an agricultural state. We grow things and we export things. We're about to be hit with trade barriers from our trading partners. He's a very dangerous man.
So are you, it sounds like you're not in favor of the tariffs that he's imposed on steel and aluminum.
No, I think any economist in the world will show you that may have some short-term benefit, but long-term, if we get into trade wars, and we are a big manufacturing nation, if we start drying up our foreign markets, we're in trouble, and that means unemployment in Ohio.
All right. Ohio has about 10,000 people in the so-called Dreamer category for DACA.
Sure.
The president now is opposing DACA.
That's where he is today.
That's where he is today, I know.
That's
Check back in 10 minutes.
Very
Check
good.
it back in 10 minutes.
I'm good.
Okay. But do you think Ohio is benefiting from having these individuals here? And what do you think would be the best outcome for the state of Ohio about their fate and future? Should they stay or should they go?
Couple years back, I was a travel nurse, and I had the privilege of being at Nationwide Children's in Columbus. And they have a giant Somali population down there that was brought in by the church, from worldwide terror. And they've become a big part of that community. We're all immigrants. For someone to suggest that a child who was brought here through no fault of their own, who's gone to grade school here, who's gone to college, who's served in the military, they're somehow damaged goods, that's offensive.
A lot of communities in Ohio, bigger cities, especially Cleveland, Dayton, have very active immigration recruitment programs, efforts to attract immigrants, especially those who are better educated and more entrepreneurial. Sure. Should the state of Ohio adopt a more aggressive effort to recruit immigrants to Ohio? Some people would say, hey, population is flat. You're going to lose one, maybe two congressional seats. It would help just to boost the population and try to stabilize.
That's wishful thinking. No, we have enough people in Ohio, and we have enough land in Ohio. We can welcome immigrants. I don't think we have any need to be recruiting them. I mean, we've got the best medical community in the world in Cleveland. There's no question. We used to have the best state college network in the nation for sure, and we've abandoned that. No,
so you would welcome them, but you don't think the state needs to make an extraordinary
effort?
I don't
think so. No. If they get here, I want to make them feel at home. I come from a family that in 1930 there was 2 people. Now there's 350 of us, and we are at 88th and Superior in Cleveland. And the one thing we had that the state of Ohio gave us that we needed was a world-class education at the end of the
So
street.
you think if there's legitimate opportunity here, they'll find it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, for example, let's talk jobs for a second. I've been on the campaign trail for 4 months now. I'm yet to find somebody to give me an answer to this. Why don't we have solar panels on top of every government building in Ohio?
You think that's an industry where we drop the ball?
Well, it's not so much to drop the ball, it's a great opportunity.
Right.
It's a great opportunity. You know, if you mandated solar panels on top of every government building, one, you're working for the environment. Two, they pay for themselves in 7 years, and thousands of jobs in design, manufacture, installation.
So
I haven't found
from
one person.
From your perspective, a win-win-win all the way
Absolutely,
down
there's
the
no
line.
reason not to be doing that.
All right, Columbus is still in the running, at least as far as we know, on paper, for the Amazon super-duper headquarters #2.
I wish them luck.
The state, well, first of all, do you think Columbus has a legitimate shot based upon the sketchy information that we all have?
I have no information because they keep it very close to the vest, but Columbus has always been a centralized market. You know, it's where everybody brings their products. It has a wonderful transportation network. It's in the Midwest, so it's close to the East Coast, and yet it's in the Midwest. No, Columbus is a great location.
So Columbus and the state of Ohio have, offered a Brinks truck of incentives, though we don't know all the specifics, to Amazon. Do you believe that it's appropriate for governments to offer big subsidies to prosperous corporations to get them to bring big job creation projects here? Is that a good use of state resources?
If somebody is going to create new jobs in the state of Ohio, and if we can encourage them to do that by giving them tax incentives, I want to look at it. The problem is tax incentives have been so badly abused in Ohio in the last 20 years. We've got major corporations that are not paying their fair share, and the schools don't have any money. That's a balance that just has to be struck. So if you're asking me, can they have a free ride? No.
Would an O'Neill administration continue to use Governor Kasich's Jobs Ohio Creation Program? Would that be part of your development efforts?
Jobs Ohio was before us at the Supreme Court of Ohio. It is the most secret theft of money that I've ever seen. Theft. T-H-E-F-T.
That's a crime, theft.
It is a crime. They've taken public money, they've put it into a private vault, and then they've hired their friends at 6 figures to use the money, and the state auditor can't even figure out what they're doing. They are stealing state money, putting it into the private sector, and pretending to do jobs, and our measurement in the nation is way down. They're not even doing their job. I mean, if these guys wanted to steal the state money,
so you
put it into a pocket.
think it's a sham?
It's a fraud. It's a fraud. There's no question about it.
So I take it won't be part of your administration.
Well, apparently they wrote a very strict contract. I think it's with us for what, 35 years? It's bad. It's real bad. But this is Tom. This is what Kasich's been doing for 8 years. I mean, what's next? Will it be the Highway Patrol? Will we give that to Pinkertons? I mean, we've already given the schools to the profiteers. We've given the prisons to the profiteers. We've given the liquor control profits to the profiteers. What's next?
Let's get back to schools for a moment here.
Sure.
Your running mate has an educational background.
More than that.
Will she play a significant role in?
Oh, that's right.
I just happen to have.
The first executive order I made when I declared my candidacy was to determine who's going to run with me. And I said, here's my criteria. Must be a female, and it must be an educator. And a committee came up with Chantel Lewis. She is an inner city school teacher. She has 2 master's degrees. She has a bachelor's from right here at Akron. She's on her way to a PhD. She has a superintendent's license, and she's the principal.
So she
wait a minute. She's the principal of the highest performing elementary school in Lorain County.
She has an impressive education resume, which is
way beyond mine.
She would be your education czar.
You want her to come on the set?
Czar or czarina? Or
you know, I use the word czar, and I'm uncomfortable with it, but I think it started us on a landslide because when we're trying to figure out how to do this, I looked at the fact that the governor's cabinet has 25 members. And, you know, those are the people who established the priorities of the state of Ohio. Not one of them deals with K through 12 education. The superintendent of the youth commission, who incarcerates our children, is on the governor's cabinet. But the superintendent of schools, who determines educational priorities, is not.
It's not. What's wrong with this picture?
And why are the schools
All right, long as we're talking
struggling?
Schools, you were a Supreme Court justice, and
Yes.
this is one of the mysteries of the long time I was a reporter. Three separate occasions, the Supreme Court told the state lawmakers Ohio's property tax-based funding system unconstitutional. Fix it.
4 times.
Fix it. 4 times.
The DeRolf case. Sure,
Yes.
It comes out of Perry County.
And so if I was told to do
it's
something...
the mystery of you and I are going to go to the grave trying to figure out how that happened. I don't know, because it is illegal, and the DeRolf case said there shall be a thorough and efficient method of funding education in Ohio, and that goes back to a constitutional amendment of 1861. And the Ohio General Assembly and the governor of Ohio have chosen to ignore that. And
Isn't that contempt of court?
It clearly is. It clearly is. But nobody's brought the action. But the look at my school system. I'm from Chagrin Falls, Ohio. I pay a ton of property taxes. I gladly do it because we have world-class schools. But our schools are 100% funded by property taxes. There is no equality of education in Ohio, and that's tragic.
Ever was and ever shall be, it almost seems like.
No,
All right,
we're going to change that. No, me and Chantel are going to change that.
Some quick thoughts on other issues here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ohio lawmakers are now considering a bill that would completely ban abortions. No exceptions for mother's health, no exceptions for rape victims. If you were governor, that bill came across your desk, would you sign it or not?
No, and it's understand, I'm the only one in this race that is pro-life. I'm a pro-life Democrat. I'm a very, very unique individual. But I will not sign unconstitutional laws.
So you know
what that legislation is doing is raising money for legislators in Ohio. Every 2 to 3 years, they come up with a law to be tough on drunks and a law to play around with the tragic issue of abortions. It's wrong. They should not be doing that.
Okay, definitely no way would you sign. No.
I will not sign a bill that is unconstitutional on its face.
All right, 10 years ago, Ohio voters voted and said payday lenders need to put a cap on their interest rates.
Sure.
And here we are 10 years later, and payday lenders still in business with a new product that does about the same thing with exorbitant interest rates, 591% in some cases. There are state laws being considered now to possibly fix that and maybe put an interest limit like 28%. There's a bill in the House now. Would you be in favor of clamping down on payday lenders?
Yeah, and by the way, while we're doing that, why don't we just expand the discussion to the banks who charge $35 if somebody goes $5 overdrawn on their checking account, which I think would be, what, a $1 million interest rate? I think there's a lot to be looked at in banking. But then again, payday lending is legal in Ohio because they've been lobbying the legislature, and the people have been taking their money, and there you have it.
Okay. Quick question. U.S. News and World Report. They rank universities. They rank hospitals. They also rank states. The last survey for ranking states, Ohio clocked in at number 40 out of 50 using criteria of job creation, education, health care, quality of life, environment. Does that surprise you? I mean, the only bordering state we were ahead of was West Virginia, and most of the states behind us were deep south.
No, it's tragic, Tom, because let's look at one we've already talked about. Our educational system is broken. Our state university system is broken. And at Cleveland Clinic, if somebody is sick in Egypt, they don't say, get me to London or New York. They say, get me to Cleveland. We have world-class care in Cleveland, Ohio. 2 blocks away, we have the
third
highest
world care.
third world, lucky to be third world. I mean, we have infant mortality rates that are just an embarrassment, and that's because the state of Ohio has not really addressed what they used to do.
All right, final one word or one phrase
Wow.
Answer question here. As we speak today, in my opinion, the state of Ohio's biggest single problem is fill in the blank.
Oh, the opioid crisis, killing 5,000 people a year, By the way, that's up 1,000 from the year before, which was up 1,000 from the year before that. It's not getting better, it's getting substantially worse. People are dying. I'm a nurse, I'm going to be the governor.
All right, Bill O'Neill, thank you very much for your time. Good luck to you on May 8th.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming by.
Wow.
All right, joining us tomorrow around 9:30 a.m., former Democratic Congressman Dennis Kucinich will be here to take our questions. And our walk-off mic drop reminder, take the time to vote by mail or in person May 8th. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm President Matt Wilson at the University of Akron, and you're watching ZTV.
Hi, I'm Billy Pace here with Real Fake Organs, the organ specialist. These organs are made to be perfect and also a part of you. The organs are new, clean, and everything that you need. Don't just buy a new organ, buy a real fake organ.